Starting with Charybdis' passive, Raging Tides. Charybdis' attack speed increases as her tide increases. Successful basic attack hits increase her tide. Charybdis deals less damage with item effect procs. The tide attack speed is increased up to 10 plus 0.75 per level at max tide, so that's going to be an additional 35% attack speed. Reduction, item damage is reduced by 35%. Basic attacks, you're going to gain 2% tide on hit. Charybdis' 1, Spike Shot. Charybdis reveals the maw and fires large projectile spikes for a short duration, dealing basic attack damage. These projectiles pass through minions and are wider and faster than normal basic attacks. On hitting enemy gods and walls, these spikes splinter, dealing additional damage. The fact that the basic attacks are wider and faster I think is very interesting. I think that's a mechanic that's new to Smite, having faster basic attacks. So that should make her pretty unique as a hunter. The minion damage is going to be 60% scaling at level 1, 100% scaling at level 5. So before you have this ability fully maxed out, you're dealing less damage to minions with this ability. The Splinter Damage is 10 at level 1, 30 at level 5, plus 10% of your physical power. The Splinter Tide, you're going to gain 2% tide per hit. The duration lasts for 4 seconds, and it has a cooldown of 14 seconds. Charybdis is 2, Capsize. Charybdis absorbs water around her before firing a quick blast from the maw. Enemies are hit by a rapidly decaying slow and physical protection debuff. This ability can be channeled for longer, consuming tide on fire to become wider, strengthen the buff effects, and deal more damage, up to 40% tide consumed. The damage is going to be 80 at level 1, 280 at level 5, plus 85% of your physical power. The extra scaling is going to be 30%. The slow is going to be 40% on max tide. The physical protection reduction is going to be 40% on max tide. The duration is 4 seconds on max tide. And the cooldown is going to be 16 seconds at level 1, 12 seconds at level 5. So whenever you fully charge this ability and consume the tide, you're going to reduce the enemy's physical protections by 40% and slow them by 40%. This sounds nutty on paper. Being able to reduce an enemy's physical protections by 40% while also slowing them, you should be able to chunk them and get some good damage off whenever they're debuffed by this ability. So I imagine if they're ever going to nerf her, this is going to be the ability that gets nerfed. Charybdis is 3, Whirlpool Form. Charybdis dives into a whirlpool she creates, expanding and revealing the terrifying maw. Charybdis moves faster and deals damage to enemies caught in the area. This ability can be amplified by toggling it again and spending 30 tide. Doing so increases the damage dealt and movement speed, as well as providing extra damage and knockup on exiting. While submerged, Charybdis is untargetable and immune to damage for up to 3 seconds. The damage is going to be 10 at level 1, 30 at level 5, plus 5% of your physical power every 0.5 seconds. The amplified damage is going to be double that, so 20 at level 1, 60 at level 5, plus 10% of your physical power every 0.5 seconds. The exit damage is going to be 60 at level 1, 220 at level 5, plus 65% of your physical power. The base movement speed is going to be 20%, the amplified movement speed is going to be 40%, and the cooldown is 17 seconds at level 1, 15 seconds at level 5. And finally, Charybdis' ultimate. Charybdis reveals her true nature, becoming immune to crowd control for the next 6 seconds and gaining movement speed. She may make one powerful attack as the maw charges forward, damaging and carrying back enemies hit before chomping down, damaging again and stunning. If she kills an enemy god with the attack, she gains another for 6 seconds and may attack again. The charge damage is 60 at level 1, 180 at level 5, plus 20% of your physical power. The bite damage is 300 at level 1, 700 at level 5, plus 150% of your physical power. The movement speed increase is 35%, the stun duration is 1.3 seconds, and the cooldown is 90 seconds. So very similar to a Scylla ultimate. For the rest of the video, we're going to let you guys look at some gameplay that was from the patch notes that came out yesterday. I think it's pretty interesting. I think this kit is going to be very fun to play, and I think she's going to be very unique compared to a lot of hunters. From her basic attacks to her basic attack chain to the ability on her 2 and her ultimate, she just seems like she's going to be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you check out the channel and subscribe for more content.
Centuries, right?
Oh yeah, I bet.
And a lot of
like
different
the first
thematic
rotate.
elements were all coming together. We liked the idea of, here you see her, this is her idle animations where the maw comes out and she interacts with it in various ways. You'll also see it coming out and interacting in various ways with her abilities, but we thought it made sense to see her be freed by Tiamat, the mother of monsters, and Charybdis, a child maybe no one could love except for Tiamat, right? That seems like a perfect fit. Tiamat, who is all of her children are monsters. So Charybdis is not anything shocking to her. The dagger mechanic also came with Charybdis. We were initially thinking hunter. We've always wanted a hunter. We had talked about a lot of different ways to realize this, but we wanted her to have a weapon to help signify that, to help show her battle readiness. And we designed the daggers in a way that is referencing tooth from or bone, as if these all of her daggers, you can imagine, are the countless teeth that the maw has shed, like a shark over the years. He just sheds teeth and grows new ones, and Charybdis fashioning them into her weapon. There's just so much detail and connectivity between her lore and her art and her style and her gameplay, as well as how she fits on the battleground. Like I feel like we could talk about this one topic forever, but I'm so glad we're seeing her model and her animations right now, and we have to see, of course, her abilities.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about we do that? Pawn, can you can take it away and show us everything. All right, let's see it all.
Oh, there it is.
Oh.
And then there's also this.
Oh. So good.
There's the penta.
Oh,
so much to see there that we have to know. Oh,
yeah, so much to break down.
To take you through these one at a time.
I agree. Well, let's dive right into it then. How about the passive, Raging Tides?
Yeah, Charybdis' passive is Raging Tides, although I also want to really quickly bring about her basic attack chain, which I know we didn't add into this, but it's pretty important. It's honestly what makes Charybdis really unique too, is that she has a unique basic attack chain where the third firing from Charybdis is actually split into 3 lighter basic attacks. So you can see here, every time she gets to the third one, there's actually even a little audio cue as well as a small animation tell. She fires 3 hits, 3 daggers that are all doing a third of the normal amount of basic attack damage. But they do all proc in-hand effects.
That's
at
so
a reduced
so
damage
exciting.
amount.
Yeah, I was gonna get to. I was gonna put a little ellipsis there. So
don't
yeah,
scare them like that, clumsy.
Yeah, right.
If we go into the passive, which is a Raging Tides, we get a little bit of that clarification, where there is the positive effect. Obviously, it is an ability; it's her passive. Where Charybdis actually, just like her father Poseidon, we wanted to have some nods, like we talked about in the Closer Look blog. She gains Tide with her basic attacks, and in this case, she actually gains attack speed as her Tide increases, and her abilities can spend it in different ways. But as we noted, item damage is reduced by 35% on Charybdis to make sure that the procs from her basic attacks aren't too insane. Believe me, at 100%, she was really doing a lot of damage, and it kind of relegated her to only being able to buy chins and Odipo. Well, now, honestly, while an attack speed build is good, and we can talk about that at the end, you can actually go crit and stuff too, and you'll see with the rest of her abilities, it feels pretty strong.
This basic attack hit chain is super awesome. It feels really good to use. I can't wait for people to get a test of that in.
Yeah, it looks so rewarding.
We had a lot of people note that.
The 3 dagger toss is just so fun looking. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. All right, so how about the first ability? How about we talk about Spike Shot?
Yeah, so Spike Shot is a basic attack stim where Charybdis finally, reveals the maw. It comes out, and she gets to fire spikes from it for a short duration. The basic attacks in this, because these are actually dealing basic attack damage, they're slightly wider and they fire slightly faster. So the projectiles are slightly faster as well. They pass through minions, and on hitting any god or wall, they actually splinter in several fragments. Those fragments are bonus damage, and they're not basic attack damage, and they'll deal extra damage to the god hit as well as anyone in the vicinity.
That is super awesome. I can already think of all the different ways that that can be fun to use, like in the jungle, like bank shots and stuff. So,
and Charybdis has a lot of, has a couple different themes going on here. So we have, of course, we're trying to work in using the monster, right? So we have, like we talked about, her daggers being carved from tooth. This is shooting something more literally, a spike from the monster. But you're also seeing a lot of water mixed in here. So as a whirlpool goddess, we have a lot of aquatic nods. So you're seeing some watery effects along with this. And you're going to see more of that coming up in future abilities. And this ability, allowing it to pierce through minions is a strong effect for lane clearing, and something you might be kind of comparing to someone like Rama, who can pierce through the minions with a basic attack stim.
Yep. But we do
Yeah,
actually
and-
recommend, especially with testing, that you probably the recommended level order is actually the 2, which is coming up next. Because if any enemies do want to, just body block it, it's got kind of got like the old on her effect. It will stop on the god, and also to make sure it's not too overpowered, with especially with the passive attack speed, it does have minion hit reduction applied. That actually goes away as it ranks up. So at level 1,
Yeah, it's a really new type of balance
60%
effect.
reduction. Yep.
Got it. Now, correct me if I'm seeing this right, but this is a duration-based ability, meaning that you get to fire more spikes the more attack speed you have?
Exactly. That's a really key point, actually, because even with her passive at early games, and that's another reason why we tend not to rank it early, you're not going to be actually doing that much because your attack speed's pretty low. But as you gain items and as you gain more levels, that ability actually becomes way, way stronger, even without any extra points being put into it.
That's
Bit of a 1 point
super
wonder,
awesome.
you could say.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's move to the second ability. Let's check out Capsize.
Yeah, absolutely. So Capsize, is a little bit of a unique ability where it starts off as a smaller cone, and the more you channel it, the more it actually gains in width. So that it's more like the cone angle itself is growing. And Charybdis is absorbing water from the area around her before firing it again from that maw. Enemies hit are applied with a really large but rapidly decaying slow and physical protection debuff. And if you channel for longer, obviously you're getting a longer lifetime and a longer potency to that debuff effect, but it does take Tide. So you can see right here, Pon turned off his energy cheats, so he's actually unable to fire any larger than that radius, that width.
Now, this
Got
is
it.
symbolic of Charybdis drinking up the water for all the years, right?
Yeah.
So in this ability, the maw hidden under her cloak is drinking in the water and getting ready to then projectile it out at enemies. This is a really good setup ability. You'll want to use this before you follow up with your basic attacks in many cases, but I would also like to point out that this ability does not hit further than 55 units away. Her basic attacks are the normal 55 unit range. Her 1 is the normal 55 unit range, and the 2 is also a little bit shorter than that. So she doesn't actually have a long-ranged poke ability on a hunter, which is a very interesting playstyle. You kind of have to get very close, or you have to stay right at that 55 range to play Charybdis optimally. And her next ability doesn't really afford her any range either, but it does complement that type of playstyle in a very
exactly.
interesting and powerful way, and of course in a very satisfying way to those players out there who are wishing that you could be just a giant whirlpool. We have something for you ready to go.
Well, why keep
Yes.
teasing them with it? Let's show off Whirlpool Form. Let's let them see the monster, the Whirlpool.
So we knew people would want to see a whirlpool. We knew people would want to see more of the monstrous maw. So we kind of designed this ability to be, really highlight those themes, as well as give you this feeling that you've got similar. You have a similar approach, like AJ was saying, where you are incentivized for going in. So this ability is a toggle ability. You can only toggle it once, however, and it does take Tide in doing so. So it's kind of like a mix between Pele and Jormungandr, where if Charybdis just uses this ability, she's dealing damage to any enemies in the vicinity. But if she actually presses again to spend that Tide, she moves even faster and does more damage in that area, and also does a knock-up effect, which is really integral actually to her gameplay, especially when you're trying to be aggressive.
Yeah, it's scary because you burn your escape if you use that to engage, but with that speed boost and the knockup, there's so much potential for really getting into your enemy with that.
Now this is a very powerful movement ability, and also a very unique one, and one we kind of wanted to try out in Smite for a long time because of its untargetability. Lets her evade a lot of powerful things, lets her get out a lot of trouble, but also doesn't move super fast, or go super far or react super quickly. So if your enemies are just prepared and tracking you really well, they'll prepare to ambush you as soon as you exit. But it was just too perfect with this kit and the visuals of being a whirlpool and what type of gameplay would fit with the whirlpool. It all worked together so well on design, visuals, and theme. Like, I'm so glad we were able to bring this aspect of the kit to this goddess. I mean, no people were really looking forward to this kind of visual element, and we wanted to make sure we had a way to honor that.
And to note as well, It's a very potent ability in fact that you can use this to either engage or disengage. It does have a pretty long windup, so she has this entire time where she's animating and diving into the ground, which is about 0.5 seconds. And during that time, you can stun her out of it. You can stop her from using this ability and try and lock her down. You'll definitely notice that it's not the easiest to just freely escape, but if you're given enough ample opportunity, then yeah, you definitely can get away from some serious hands.
Did you mention the warm-up time too?
That's what I was just saying. The 0.5 second warm-up time. Yeah.
Because that warm-up time. Sorry, I was still trying to understand if we were talking about the warm-up time or like the exit state. But yeah, that warm-up time is no joke. I've gotten trapped a few times in playtesting, thinking I could get out of things a little too quickly, but the warm-up time, a well-timed CC will prevent you from escaping. And same with if you're too deep in, once you do exit out of that form, someone can save your CC for right when you come out and get you that way too.
And while you can go underneath player-made deployables, you cannot go underneath geometry. So that's another big thing. She doesn't have like a leap or a teleport, right? So if you are being ganked and you're in the middle of your lane, you may not be safe just going to your tower. You might have just preferred having like a leap over into the jungle instead. So sometimes just chasing the Charybdis is actually the simpler approach.
Yeah, but that is super worth noting that, you know, Ymir throws a wall or Odin drops an ult, and if you have that ability up, you can just skulk right out under it.
Yep.
Which is super awesome.
Very evasive.
Yeah, and I agree that it looks super good. If super good means like terrifying and toothy. So, but that's awesome. I'm excited about that, and not excited about trying to chase that. But let's get into the ult. Let's check out the Maw Hungers.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see it again before
yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
There we go.
Oh,
all right, so
brings out the Maw.
Just like how Charybdis had, you know, that passive that kind of alluded to her father, Poseidon, we wanted to do something very reminiscent to, you know, her spiritual sister of Scylla. We wanted to have this similar kind of ability where you do a large chunk of damage, but utilizing this awesome creature of hers. And of course, you can see you got the killer reset that Scylla has. So Charybdis has that as well. So what's happening here is, you know, Charybdis is really revealing her true nature, being immune and moving faster as well. And she actually has a rectangle component that you can aim as the player, which will push enemies that are caught in that towards the cone, towards the center of the cone. And in that cone, you're going to be dealing a heavy amount of damage and actually stunning as well, which is a different component than Scylla has. But as a hunter, this ability is actually not the easiest to use. We have found in playtesting, and just while designing her, that if you're a long-range mage like Scylla, firing something over a wall is pretty easy. This ability, you can't fire through walls because of that net component. And if you're not careful, the enemy can just sidestep it or beads or Aegis, and then it just fire back at you. So adding that stun component to utility has been very, very helpful. And sometimes using this ability as an engage rather than like the final hit has actually been more helpful, depending really on whether your team can set up the CC beforehand for you or not.
Yeah, wow, it's just so impressive to watch because how amazing the monster looks. Oh, and that's cool. You can choose the distance you want. You can literally cast it like a bite right in your face. That's
exactly.
awesome.
So the closer you do fire this ability, the faster it comes out, which is also really important because at the max range distance, it isn't actually the easiest ability to hit. You know, enemies can just kind of.
It really is not. And I know people, you know, there's probably a lot of people out there who think they're masters at Smite, and some of you maybe are, but a lot of you are not. And when the time comes, we will see how this works. How good people are at hitting it. We think this is a very high risk, high reward ability. It can be really strong when the enemy team is not really paying attention, or if you catch multiple people with it, especially because of the CC. Like I remember having just like the experiences Clumsy described. I remember having experiences in playtesting where I tried to use it in a one-on-one scenario, missed or got beads, and the other hunter punished me for it by killing me. And I also remember coming around a corner in a jungle and hitting like 3 enemies on the team with it who all had their beads down and swinging a whole team fight.
Right, exactly.
It's very akin to Scylla, and also it's just very important for us to show her Maw, the monster, in its truest, full-size, large form, where it's just really impressive and scary, and that's what this ability is really going for thematically.
You know that moment right at the end of the Charybdis cinematic where the Maw is just flying at you? That is the Maw coming at you and it's about to bite down.
That's so exciting. And I don't know, I really love that you get to choose the range because, like, that means, you know, if you're engaging on somebody, like, if you did it full range, you push them away, that's so far away, you know, you could ruin an engage.
Yeah, you can absolutely use it as a disengage, right.
Yeah, like, there's so many ways you can use it, and it's obviously horrifying. So super duper awesome. Was there anything?